All right, we're live. Hi, everyone. Hi, guys, on LinkedIn and YouTube, on this camera, on my website, sorry, on my desktop, and hi on Instagram over here. We're going live on YouTube, Instagram, LinkedIn, and Facebook to talk about how to get promoted at work. Hi, Warren. Warren is joining us. Hey,
Hi everyone.
Warren.
Hi.
Thanks for joining us, Warren. So the purpose of this live Q&A is to connect with you guys, to chat with you about something interesting. We do these once every month, but this will be our last live Q&A this year. And what we do is first we release a podcast episode, and then we do a live discussion a week or two after to make it more interactive so that you can talk directly with us about what we talk about on the podcast. And today's episode is how to get a promotion at a job you love. We released this podcast about 8 days ago, and now we're going to talk to you about it live. So, why did we
Yes.
choose this topic? We chose this topic because Warren got recently promoted at work. Warren is the co-founder and COO of Soul Career, and it took him just 15 months to get a promotion, right, Warren?
Yeah, that's right. I got fortunate, but it was a combination of very thoughtful efforts to try to turn things around and ensure that the company Cloudflare that I'm working at right now saw the full impact and value that I could have for the team.
Exactly, exactly. So we talk about the first 90 days on the new job and how important that is when you're trying to get a promotion. We talk about how to negotiate for what you want. How do you kill it and increase your visibility at the workplace? We talked about all of that on the podcast. And now we want to answer your questions. So a
Right.
little bit about me before we jump in. I'm Lisandra Ricketts. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Soul Career, where I help and Warren helps as well, that we both help professionals and executives to find meaningful work that's a match with their personalities and to build powerful legacies. And Warren, over to you.
Yes.
A little bit
Yes.
about.
Yeah, I'm Warren. I'm co-founder and COO of Soul Career, and I am also a strategic account manager at Cloudflare, a Silicon Valley company located in San Francisco, the city, and they just went public last year, September 13th.
Exactly. And Warren got started at Cloudflare in July and they went public in September. So you got some shares right under the deadline.
Yeah, I got in right before they went public, a couple months before. So that was cool. It was cool to be a part of a private company, especially in Silicon Valley, where there's a lot of attention when it comes to tech right now. There has been a lot of attention for the past decade, maybe. And yeah, I hopped in right when they were private, and that was cool. Seeing how a private company operated in this space, and then experiencing them go public in a few months.
Exactly. So we have people saying hi from Sweden. Hi. Hi, Thomas from LinkedIn. And over on Instagram, we have Bonita, we have Nigel, we have all sorts of people on Instagram saying hi. Russia, I think that flag is from. Hi over there on Instagram. All right, Warren. So the first question, or maybe the first place that I wanted to start was just how did you even get that job? Just a quick line, a couple of lines on how many interviews you did, how many places you applied to get the job at Cloudflare, your journey, and then you got the job and got a promotion. So how did you get the job?
Yeah, so before Cloudflare, I was working at Facebook, and that was my first job coming out of business school in 2018. Unfortunately, the Facebook experience wasn't really what I was looking for post business school. So I decided, you know what, I want to really achieve, I want to work at my soul career, a career that energizes me from the inside out. So I decided to quit Facebook last year, March, and I went into the job application pool, right? And I was searching for a new job for about 4 months, and I interviewed at How many
Ah,
companies this I interviewed at? What, like I had 30, 30, how much?
you applied to 43 jobs at 36 companies.
Right. I don't even remember anymore because I just went into this autopilot when I was going through that experience, and I feel like it kind of like I'm just trying to move on. But it was very important because I applied to 40 plus jobs, interviewed at 30 plus of them, and only, well, yeah, interviewed at 30 plus, and I ended up getting five acceptance letters at the end of the interview process and decided to go with Cloudflare. And it came with just, I think what gave me the inspiration and gave me the energy to have success at Cloudflare was the fact that I internalized what is it that I want from my job. And Cloudflare started checking those boxes for me while I was going through that interview process, such as, a company with purpose, a team with a collaborative culture, etc. And they could
Mhm.
feel that energy coming from me. They could feel that I was very interested and energized with of the possibility to work there. And I ended up getting the job. And as Lisandra said, I started working in July 2019.
Exactly, exactly. And that was a really good success story. So you applied to 43 jobs at 36 companies. You got 15 interviews, 10 rejections, right? And then we turned things around and you ended up getting five acceptances and you chose Cloudflare, which was awesome. So,
Mhm.
one of the things we talk about on the podcast episode is how important the first 90 days on the new job is. So, what I want to ask you is like, is it necessary to do well in the first 90 days in order to get a promotion? Like what happens if you don't do well in the first 90 days? Can you recover from that?
Yeah, yeah. I think literally you can recover if you don't have a great 90 days, but it's going to be a lot more difficult. So, going back to my experience at Facebook, before I got the full time job in 2018, I was actually an MBA intern in 2017. It was a great experience. I was super prepared going into that internship and just thinking about, being as present as possible. And it worked out. I got the full time offer, went back in 2018. But I think I took my foot off the gas a little bit, all else considered. And I didn't really pay too much attention to the first 90 days. And I think that was a big difference between my experience at Facebook and my experience at Cloudflare. Cloudflare, I was um, very intentful with having my first 90 days be as successful as possible. And that means in the first 30 days, I had a plan to learn as much as possible, be a sponge, consume as much of the product information, meet as many people on my team as possible, go on coffee dates, go on walks, in the morning or for lunch, and getting to know the people on my team, shadowing many people on my team, shadowing the calls that they were taking, how they were responding to certain situations, just consuming. In the next 60 days, I thought about how to continue to learn, but also implement some of the best practices that I picked up following a lot of these people at my job, on my team. And I continue to do that while meeting people on cross functional teams, such as the product team, marketing team, account executive team. And then the last 30 days, the 60 to 90 days, I just feel like learning. You constantly learn, especially at a company like Cloudflare, where the products are so technical and they come out with product updates constantly. But the last 30 days is when I really started taking ownership of my book of accounts, and I started trying to have as much of an impact as possible. And I think with all of that combined, the first 90 days, the first 3 months of the job, the impression that I left was that first impression that lasts. And it's that impression of someone that's present, that's devoted, and that really cares about the work that he is doing. Hence why I think um, I think that played a big part of the promotion that I got most recently.
Mm-hmm. So if you guys have any questions while Warren is talking, just let me know. Type, and we can ask him immediately because this is our Q&A. We're going to take questions from you. Hi, E. Jude from Chicago. Thanks for joining. And remember, guys, type. Ask us your questions. We want to answer you directly. So, Warren, what if I have a crappy first 90 days? Should I just quit that job and look for another job? Is it all over for me? Or do I still have a shot at this thing?
I don't think so, but you know what? Don't even take the chance and find yourself in that situation. I think it's much better to start strong, right? But yes, if you do have a crappy first 90 days and you felt like you started on the wrong foot, there is a way to course correct. And I think it just really takes being present as possible, owning the situation that you're in, and trying to understand where you're falling short and work on those areas in the next 3 months. I guess I think when you think about working at a corporate company, it's safe to think about those moments in quarterly chunks. So every 3 months is where you kind of reset and you start going again. And this is your opportunity to reset, right? And I think it's important to maybe even write out a plan on how you want to approach the next 90 days and take it from there. Uh, it it will prove to be a little bit more difficult because you've already somewhat established a brand, but it isn't impossible to turn things around and show people that, you know what, um, this person understands where they are. They understand that they have some work to do and they're taking ownership. And I think that's super important.
Yeah. Yeah. When I think about my own experience hiring people, or even before I was CEO, if a new person on the team didn't impress in the first 90 days, I think it was harder for that person to recover because the first impressions matter a lot. And it's hard to shift those first impressions. And also, the first 90 days is often, in Jamaica, at least in the Caribbean, it's often a probationary period.
Mhm.
So if you're not doing well in the probationary period, you might not make it through to get the full-time permanent position. So it is very hard to recover when you don't have a great 90 days. But as Warren said, not impossible. And we have a question here from LinkedIn. Hi, Simone. Great to have you on. Question from her. In applying for over 40 positions, did you submit one standard resume or did you tailor it based on the position or place, Warren?
That's an excellent question. Um, I definitely tailored it based on the position or place, but I had a standard foundation. So it's almost like an, answering both of your questions there. It's a little bit of both, right? So first you have to understand what is it that you've done in your professional experience and build that base resume based on that, based on your achievements, certain tasks, certain experiences that you've been in and how you've come out of those experiences. What was the experience? What was the action? What was the result of those experiences? And list all of that down on your resume, right? For every role that you've worked for. Then when looking for roles, it's important to understand what kind of roles are you trying to work at. And it needs to follow. I think it's helpful for you more so than the job that you're applying to. It's helpful for you to understand what are the roles that energizes you the most. What are the roles that you think you could add a lot of value to, right? Think of that first. And usually it falls into a category, like all those roles tend to have similarities. It's important not to try to apply to be an investment banker and then also a consultant and also someone in tech and also an engineer. And like
Exactly.
if you're all over the place, honestly, most importantly, you're just going to confuse yourself. So the first goal is to understand, what is the role? Do I want to work in sales? Am I somewhat interested in marketing? There's a connection between sales and marketing. I think that extent, that diversity of difference is fine, but keep it very channeled. Keep somewhat of a tunnel vision. And after you do that, I think you tailor your resume based on what the company is looking for that role, because Cloudflare could be looking for one thing from their product marketing managers, and Facebook could be looking for another thing for their product marketing managers. That's a little bit different than Cloudflare because their products are different. Cloudflare is very technical. Facebook is more about digital marketing, social media. So I would say have that foundation in this example, have that foundation of marketing and show your experience in marketing and what you've achieved. And then tailor based on the wording, the verbiage that you think will speak more to a technical company like Cloudflare versus digital marketing, social media focused company like Facebook. That's where you would do the little tweaks so that the language speaks to them a bit more.
Exactly. Like that was a perfect answer, Warren. And that's what we teach in Soul Career too, which is you have your mission, right? Your life's work, your professional mission, and your resume, your cover letter, your LinkedIn profile are all tailored around that mission. And then you choose jobs to apply to that match your mission and what you want to do. But then you just
Mm-hmm.
edit, you tweak it just a little bit to respond directly to that company and that specific role, just like you said. Amazing. So we have another question here. If you could throw it up on the screen from Damien. Hi, Damien. How important is it, Warren, to have a mentor or an ally or a very clear onboarding process in achieving success on the job? Great question. Warren, all yours.
Yeah. So I'm gonna cut this. Yeah, I'm gonna cut this question into two pieces. So first, how important is it having a mentor or ally? Absolutely important. Arguably the most important thing that you could have. My mentor and ally is Lisandra. And I am very lucky to have that in my life, right? And
I didn't
if I'm
expect
being
that.
and if I'm being completely honest, I think a lot of communities demographics, they're missing that compared to some other communities and demographics. That is the key difference between the success rate that certain people can have, because we need, just thinking about being a kid growing up, you're such a sponge and you're shaped based on your environment and the people around you. And I think that that same experience, that it continues into adult life when thinking about where should I go, where should I take my professional career, where should I take my next step of developing as a person. It's important to have people in your life that can positively contribute to that thought process and just that development process so that you can get best prepared for what that next step is, right? Because you can talk to yourself as much as possible and read as many books, but it's never the same when you can bounce your ideas off of a trusted resource and get their feedback, especially when this is someone that has tremendous experience that is very relevant to the type of life that you're looking to live. So very important question number one for me. Part A.
So,
Go ahead. Yeah.
well, basically, you're saying you can have a mentor or ally either in the company or outside the company, right? So I was outside the company, especially when you were at Facebook and we, as an intern, and we were talking through like all the other interns are thinking this and doing this. Should I think that way or should I position myself differently? I remember those were conversations we had, and I'm like, Warren, do not do what the other interns are doing.
Right, because Lisandra, she's been through a similar excuse me, she's been through a similar process before I did, right? I went to business school, and then in business school I was thinking about where should I take my career. She also went through that process herself, 4 years, a couple of years before that, 6 years before that, 6 years or so. And yeah, she was a trusted resource because she understood the feelings of the fear of missing out. We call it FOMO in business school. She understands the influences that you can have to veer off track, because that's what everyone else is doing, like a herd mentality. So it was very important. So if you can find someone in a company that you're at right now or outside with relevant experience, super, super, super helpful. Now, part B of the question, a very clear onboarding process to achieving success. How important is that? I think that's very, very important as well, but that is more dependent on the company, that you're looking to work for, the company that you're currently working at. And I think it's important to have your foundational strength that isn't dependent on what the company can offer to you, right? Like, so what I'm trying to say is, it's great if a company has a clear onboarding process, and I think that is a very clear indicator to the success of new employees at companies. And it's something that the best companies that try to implement as much as possible. Like, how clear is this onboarding process, setting expectations so I can set up my new employees for success and help them shine. I can facilitate their growth. But reality is, many companies, they do not have a very clear onboarding process. So does that mean that you're just going to automatically fail? It shouldn't. And this is where the first 90 days again is so important, right? Because at least you have a plan, you have a clear internal onboarding process to help you succeed, regardless of the preparation and the streamlined process of the company that you're trying to work for. So that part of the question, I would say, yes, it's important, but it shouldn't dictate how you approach the job and the type of success that you have as a result. I hope that
Yeah.
answers the question, Damien.
No,
Very
that's
good
a
one. Thank you.
great, yeah, that's a great answer. And I completely agree with you. Like, if the company doesn't have a clear onboarding process, then you need to have one for yourself. And that starts with a great 30, 60, 90-day plan. Well, okay, they don't have a plan for me, but in the first 30 days, I'm going to learn as much as I can, learn the products. In the next 30 days, I'm going to start talking with other team members, talking with clients, etc., performing, meeting some of my job description responsibilities. And then in the next 90 days, the next 30 days after that, I'm really going to show what I can do, right? And one of the things that you did, or that you recommend doing to our clients, is setting up structured weekly calls with your manager if there's nothing like that in place. So you can set up the structure for your success if it doesn't already exist in the company. So Warren, now I'm going to ask you about the promotion itself. Like, how does getting a promotion work? Do you have to ask for it? Does it come up at a certain time period? Do they tap you on the shoulder and say, hey, you're up for a promotion? How did that piece of it actually work? And I have people over here on Instagram. Hi, guys, on Instagram, but join us on YouTube or LinkedIn if you want to see Warren directly. All right, Warren. So how does that actually work?
You ask for it. Ask for it. Don't leave your success and your outcomes in other people's hands entirely. Take ownership and ask. That's what I did. I can imagine many people have gone through experiences where they've been told that they're up for promotion, and people are working for them. They're on their side, and great. That's good for them. I think that's awesome. But there's so much value in asking for what you want, and that's exactly what I did. And I was just asking the entire year, and I wasn't just asking with no foundation. I was putting in the work, and I had results on a quarterly basis. I work in sales, so it is pretty straightforward to show the value that you're adding based on, at Cloudflare, the goals were retention, client retention, and upsells. How much did you upsell that quarter into your current book? And I was doing my best, and I was showing the numbers quarter after quarter. And also I was doing things like participating in internal cultural, like I'm a lead for Cloudflare's ERG, employee resource group called Afroflare, and I took a very important role in that process. I took on this project for a new product and created the onboarding guide for the customer success team and shared that across the company. That got a lot of visibility across the company and helped improve the onboarding process. I would say, honestly, tenfold based on the first onboard that we did, which I participated in. And I also, did a lot of internal team best practices, knowledge share events, right? I took part in those. I was active. I've been an active employee, and I they had a list of what it takes to be a strategic CSM compared to a regular CSM, and I was keeping tabs on that list, and I felt that I was hitting the mark, and because of that, I asked periodically. I made it clear I want to be a strategic CSM. What will it take for me to get there? And I I remember, right before I got the promotion, that was top of mind, and it came up pretty often, and they eventually granted me the keys. So yes, that will be my ads. I mean, that's my official ad. So if you want something, you go for it. You make sure that you have a case, and you ask for it. You make it very clear that this is what you want.
Okay, so you asked your manager in your weekly meetings, especially to around the 12-month mark, you started saying, I want to be a strategic CSM. How do I get there? Right? So how soon did you start asking? Because you can't go into the first meeting with your manager, or can you, day one, and say, listen, I want to get a promotion in X months. How do I get there? Like, how soon do you start putting that on the table?
Yeah, I think this answer has a little bit more flexibility to it.
Yeah.
I think you can wait. I think it's normal to wait a few months before making it clear to your manager, what is it that you want to do as your next step. But there's a lot to be said for making that clear as soon as possible. And going into the job, I had an understanding of the different levels of the role. And in this personal experience, I didn't do this at Facebook, but here at Cloudflare, one of my first meetings with my manager, we spoke about what is it that I would like my career to look like at Cloudflare in the next 3 months, 6 months, a year, 5 years, etc. And I mentioned that my goal, my next goal after this role is to become a strategic CSM. And she was like, wow, okay, we're starting running. We're hitting the ground running, right? And so, even with that comment that she made, I can imagine that that's not something she hears very often, but that is what I did. I made it clear. I knew what I wanted. And if you know what you want up front, you make it clear that that is what you're looking to do. And you're looking for that person's help in guiding you in the right direction so that you can achieve that goal.
Absolutely. I love that story, Warren, because people want to know the nitty gritty mechanics of this thing, right? I often think you should give it your best, give the current role your best for 6 months, and then you start talking about growth and your trajectory and what is the growth potential for me. If it's not clear what the next step in your role is, for Warren in a sales position at a well-established Silicon Valley company, it was very clear what the next step would be, right? So you can put it on the table quite early. But if it's not clear in the role that you're in, you can say, I'm looking for growth. Growth is really important to me. How do I grow? What's the next step for me? Just have that open dialogue with your manager is really important in getting a promotion.
Yeah. You know what? I do want to make a comment here about. I can imagine we might have many viewers on the call thinking, well, it sounds like you need to be super bold, and I'm not going to use the term extroverted because that's not what extroverted means, although I think a lot of people think it does. But you don't have to be this super outspoken, bold person that is not who you really are. I think it's important to be true to who you are. And you can be a more reserved type, but still follow this approach. I would say these tips that we're giving, follow it as best as you can for your personality type, because it is completely normal to have a reserved approach and to be like, I am interested in hopefully becoming an X, and that is completely fine. I think the goal here with this is just being open to letting your people know in your professional space what is it that you're looking to do, and why do you think you're a good fit. There are many different ways to approach this, but ultimately, that is what you what you need. I think that's where you can add the most value, as far as just letting people know, what you're thinking, because you are thinking something, no matter what your personality type is, and it will be respected, right? And many people, they prefer a more humble approach to some of these conversations. So what I'm just trying to say is, you don't need to be this big bad bold salesperson and be like, I want this, in order to get it. um, you can be whoever you are and still get that by letting it known what is it that you want. I hope that makes sense.
I think it does, because a lot of people are introverts who may be introverts. We're both extroverts, just to be upfront. So Warren is an ENFJ and I am an ENFP, right? So Warren is the more exacting and I'm the more bohemian of the two, surprisingly enough. Right? But if you're an introvert, this might feel very scary for you, asking for what you want, going after, saying it up front, just like what Warren is saying. And my recommendation is the relationship you have with your manager then becomes very important. It's really important to build rapport with your manager so that you can have a discussion that feels more cozy, more intimate, more free flowing, and not necessarily having to feel like you have to put it out there and be aggressive. It can feel different if you have a great relationship with your manager. So, Warren, that brings me to a question. And guys, remember to ask your questions. Let me just remind those on Instagram, head over. Okay, if you can't find it on LinkedIn, we're on youtube.com/soul career. youtube.com/soul career. We're live there as well, Kamoy. Ask your questions. I am not the only person that wants to ask Warren questions. I'm sure you guys do as well. So please type your questions and ask. I'm gonna actually write in LinkedIn where the YouTube channel is. So Warren, while you're answering this question, I'll type it in there. But my question for you is, can you get a promotion if you don't have a good relationship with your manager?
Wow. That is tough. Um, that would be very challenging. I am just gonna say up front, to share some insight. So there are studies on this, right? The majority of people that end up leaving companies, they're leaving because of their manager, first and foremost, and their team. There's a large percentage. There's a study on the large percentage amount of people that leave jobs, why they leave, and that those are the main reasons. So not having a good relationship with your manager is an inhibitor to your professional growth, if I'm just being completely honest. And this is why the interview process, this is why even going back to the application process, it's important to understand, what do you want from this company, why this company energizes you. And when you're in the actual interview, you are not the only one being interviewed. You are interviewing the team to see what kind of team is this, and is this a team that I could work for? Is this a team I could be happy in? Nip it in the bud early on, because you don't want to find yourself working for a manager that does it. There's just, it's going to be very difficult to have a connection with this person, and your growth is inhibited as a result. No. Is it possible to get promoted with by having a manager that you don't have the greatest relationship with? Yes, it is possible, but it proves to be a lot more difficult, right? Because of the reasons. So, well, the reasons why it is difficult if you don't have a great relationship is, companies are companies are usually these huge organizations, or relatively just pretty large organizations, where any one decision maker cannot focus on every little thing happening at the company, and hence why they have segmented teams and segmented managers to take care of that kind of task. So your manager typically is the one that understands the work you do best, and can root for you the best by speaking to a higher up decision maker on why this person is fit for management. I mean, for a promotion, why this person is doing a good job, and also the opposite of that, why this person isn't doing a good job, right? And they have a lot of clout as a result, because most other decision makers at the company, they tend to not have that deep of an insight into your day to day as your manager does. So that's why it's very important to have a good relationship with with your manager, and why if you don't, it proves to be difficult. No, it's not impossible to get a promotion if you don't have a good relationship. And this is why it's important to build relationships with other people across the org, cross-functional partners that you work with. So if you're in sales, in my example, I'm in sales. I want to build great relationships with the product team, with the engineering team that I work with, the marketing team, the other sales side, the cold calling, more salesy sales side of the org, etc. So that I have champions, diversified champions across the org that can speak to the work that I do. And if I run into a situation where I don't have a great relationship with my manager, I can make a case for myself to my manager's manager, or even to the manager of a different department at the company that speaks to me in case you're looking to change departments. I can build a case for myself by having other people across the company speak to the work that I've done because they've worked with me. So very possible, but again, it's more challenging if you don't have a great relationship with your manager, and it shows the importance of a manager in a corporation.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And in fact, I remember, there's a statistic that most people who leave their jobs, it's because of relationship with a bad manager. I think the statistic is 60 to 80% of people leave jobs because of their manager. So not only, if you don't have a great relationship with your manager, not only is it harder for you to get a promotion, but it's also much more likely that you're going to end up leaving that job and having to go somewhere else. So in the first 90 days, the key relationship you need to develop is the one with the person that you're reporting to, for sure.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so Warren, on the podcast. Oh, you wanted to say something before I move on?
I was thinking
Sorry.
about it. I'm always trying to empathize as much as possible with the listeners. Like, if I were a listener, how would I feel after that comment? And it is important to build that relationship with the manager, but don't over invest into trying to please your manager as much as possible, because that can get touchy too, and that can actually set up the relationship to not be that good of a relationship, because I don't think most managers, they innately have a respect for subordinates that are trying way too hard to please.
Yeah.
And it's one of those conversations you have in soul career. Yeah, you have to find that balance of being someone that doesn't necessarily require your manager's approval with every little thing that you do, based on the fact that you are someone that takes ownership of your tasks. So just be aware of that balance. It's important not to be too pleasing for your manager, where it's obvious that you're just trying so hard to make sure that they like you. Because just think about your personal relationships, right? How well has that worked with anyone that you've done that with? So, keep that in mind when having this relationship with your manager. Hold your manager accountable as well, because there's respect that's built there. When you can be when they can think of you as someone that will give them feedback as well if they approached a situation or made a comment that you thought was suboptimal.
Right. So Simone is agreeing with you here. Don't be a people pleaser. It's not a healthy working environment.
Exactly.
So there's a balance to be struck here. Oops. Be true to yourself and put in the work. Yeah. So there's a balance to be struck here between having a good enough relationship with your manager to be put forward for promotion, because that person is a person, as you said, Warren, who knows the nitty gritty of what you're capable of, right? But there's a balance to be struck where you have to keep the relationship professional. You have to be true to yourself, show what you're able to do. But I do stress the relationship management piece, because as we mentioned on the podcast episode too, the higher up in any organization that you go, the more your work becomes about relationship management and the less it becomes about executing tasks. And that is true no matter what industry you're in, no matter what function you're in, sales, marketing, finance. You have to get good at managing relationships in order to get to the highest levels of the organization. I actually remember when I worked in management consulting in New York at Bain, the partners, all they did was relationship management, taking clients out, winning contracts by just taking the clients out, responding to clients' needs, managing that relationship. And then it was the consultant, the associates, and the managers that did all the work, right? The partners just did relationship management. For myself, as CEO of the Branson Center, my entire job was relationship management. Very little on executing tasks. Most of the tasks I had was strategy and vision, but mostly coordinating the team, managing the board, managing the stakeholders, investors, the entrepreneurs, and very little on task-based work. So the first relationship you have is with your manager. So you do have to pay attention to it, but be very balanced, still be yourself, still be authentic, and be confident and own your own work as well. Right. All right, Warren. So the part where we talked the most on the podcast was about negotiations, which you are a superstar at negotiations. Warren, to get what he wants. So you told your manager that you wanted a promotion, right? And then they put you up for one. I think that's how it went. And then it came to negotiating. So how did that process happen? And then how did the negotiation actually work?
Yeah. So when my manager told me, yes, we're gonna grant you this promotion, then that is when I decided, okay, all right, this is when I would like to have a nego. So I'm thinking about this because usually I would expect that in most companies they let it known that, all right, so this is what we're thinking about for your compensation, and it's kind of setting the stage for you to have that negotiation conversation. I found, and maybe this is more normal, I found that I had to I had to ask for this negotiation conversation. So not only did I have to ask for the promotion, I'm asking to, hey, can we have a conversation about compensation? Because it's almost as if we didn't have the conversation, they would have given me a default kind of pay bump, right? So this is important. Be very on the mark. Once you get told that you're going to get this promotion, and schedule a follow-up call with your manager so that you can talk compensation, right? Make sure you do that because you want to get the best bang for your buck as possible. Now, just to rewind a bit, and for those that didn't listen to the podcast, and I'll be quick here, is I got burnt very early on in my career, which I think shaped how I viewed negotiations moving forward. Because when I graduated undergrad, I took an offer that later down the road in the job, my manager let me know, which I don't know how professional this is, but I guess I had a great relationship with my manager, that if I actually asked for a certain number, they would have given it to me, but I didn't ask. And I was so burnt by that, especially as someone that was racked up. Like, I had so much student debt. I still have a lot of student debt, many bills to pay. I was living paycheck to paycheck. And to hear that from my manager, that if I asked for a number, I would have gotten it, was heartbreaking, right? And I thought to myself, I never want this to happen to me again. And because of that experience, every time there's a negotiation conversation to be had, I make sure to ask what I want. Now, now, when you actually ask for this negotiation conversation, if you're not so lucky to have your company actually lay that out for you and schedule that type of conversation for you instead, this is when you start doing your research, right? And ideally, you do this. Go ahead. Yep.
Jump in here and just say,
yes.
I think you're right that it is more normal that the company would just give you a standard increase unless you say, hey, can we discuss the compensation piece? Because thinking back to the Branson Center, that's what we would have done as well. You're a little distorted on my end, your video. How do you look on
Uh-oh.
your, you look good on your end?
I look fine on my end. Can
Okay.
anyone in the audience, can you guys let us know if we're distorted?
Yeah. But okay, so continue. So you were gonna say, all right,
Hmm.
so once you have that conversation, then what happens next? Research.
Yes, yes. All right. So once you have all of that laid out, and you start preparing for this negotiation conversation, well, I should say you should prepare for this negotiation conversation. I think um, many people, because this is a conversation that is feared, and just to let you know, this is feared by most, if not all, right? No one is, everyone gets a bit nervous before going into this kind of conversation because there is this, a lot of us have been conditioned to think that negotiation conversations need to be contentious, meaning it needs to be intense, it needs to be this battle. Okay, I'm seeing that my image is blurry. I don't know
It
if
looks
it's
good now. It looks good
okay,
now.
maybe that
Yeah.
came in late, but I'll just
Yeah.
continue. Yeah, I think we've been conditioned to think that it's this like very awkward conversation with the manager, and you have to be like super like straight faced and argumentative, and that's not true, right? So first and foremost, get that out your head, and if it becomes that, then maybe this isn't a company that you want to work for in the long run anyway. But even if it becomes that, and this is the company that you really enjoy, it is what it is. Don't worry about those little things. But typically I've found that these conversations don't have to be an argument. And it's really dependent on how you approach the conversation as well. Now, with that being said, to prepare, you should do research. You should go on tools like Glassdoor, tools like LinkedIn Navigator. There's a tool that you brought up in our podcast, Lisandra. I forget it right now, but
Payscale. Payscale.com.
Payscale, payscale.com. Go on these platforms and look up the role that you're about to get promoted for, or the role that you want, depending on the situation you're in. And look up what is the average compensation. What is the compensation at its highest end? What's the compensation at its lowest end? How much do you make right now? What are your expenses? What value have you added? And if you're getting a promotion, it sounds to me that you've added a lot of value, because I am a big believer in companies tend to undervalue their talent. You never get paid how much you're actually worth. So if you're getting this promotion, I would always recommend start on the high end of the scale that you've been researching and finding on these websites. And also, if you have good relationships internally, trusting relationships, especially of someone in a role that you're trying to achieve, and they're willing to let you know how much they're making or how much the range is, that's great too. It's about just doing as much due diligence as possible to find out what is a realistic range for you.
Yeah.
And then you choose the highest end of that range, in my opinion, and you go into the conversation stating, this is how much I think I'm worth. This is why, listing out some top key takeaways, some top key achievements that you've done. And this is the research that I've done. Maybe you don't want to say, hey, Nancy on the team told me that this is how much she's making. So don't say that. But be like, I was on Glassdoor, what LinkedIn, what have you, and this is the research that, based on the research I've done. This is the number that kept coming up, and I would like to make this moving forward. Take it from there. Negotiations, they usually tend to go down as both teams negotiate. So that's why I'm always about starting high, and make sure that you have your BATNA. What does BATNA mean again? The
Best alternative to a negotiated agreement. So it is what
alternative.
happens if the negotiation doesn't go your way.
Right. And BATNA, though, what's the acronym is best alternative to,
A negotiated agreement.
there we go. All right. So that's, have your BATNA in place where it's the lowest, right? Make sure you're well above that. So that anything above the BATNA, no matter if it's lower than the initial number that you gave, is a win, right? And if you get to a point where you're getting below your BATNA, if this is a promotion, that's unfortunate, but take what they give you and then make a game plan after that, because it's always a win to get a promotion, right? Because that shows that you are developing in your job, and that gives you a lot more leverage when having conversations with maybe another team that you might want to move to because you feel like you're not being valued by your current team, or another company that you would like to work for. But if you're negotiating a new job, I would say that you leave that offer and you move on to the next offer. And I'm going down a rabbit hole now because this is why at Soul Career we talk about having multiple offers. But anyway, so negotiation, research, find your BATNA, choose the highest number from the research you've done, go into the conversation with that number, and the final thing I would say is have a conversation that doesn't need to be argumentative. Approach the conversation, with pleasant thoughts. Prep yourself up before, feel good, go into the conversation, and don't expect it to be awkward, right? Just
Yeah.
talk about, once you're prepared and once you've done your research, share that with your manager, and usually things will work out as a result.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so questions from you guys. We've covered the first 90 days. We've covered, do you ask for a promotion or do you wait until they tap you on the shoulder? We've covered, how do you negotiate your compensation? What else have we covered, Warren? Manager.
we
Having a good relationship with your manager.
yes.
What else? Am I missing anything? I don't think so. So,
I don't think so. I think you covered everything else. Yeah, I think you covered everything.
So guys, ask your questions. And we got some questions based on the podcast. So Natalie's going to post some of those. Natalie has a question for us. Sanjay, I'm seeing a non-adversarial comment. Maybe you could clarify what that is. Only the non-adversarial part came through. Okay, Natalie, go ahead and post the question. Let me try to get above the question here. I've been at my current workplace for about 2 months, but I still don't really know the members of my team. Do you have any networking tips for people who are too shy to approach new people directly?
I like it. That's a good one. And that's one where, you have 1 more month to go. And I think it's super important to understand who's on your team and meet people on your team. So, and this is why I brought up the whole introvert thing earlier, because, I expected this type of question to come about, right? What about if you're too shy to approach new people? I think that if you're a shy person, this is challenging, but life is about getting as comfortable as you can with the uncomfortable. And that's how you achieve success. There needs to be some sacrifice made, no matter who you are, in order to be a successful person professionally. And this is an example where I would say, push yourself. And if you are uncomfortable having a face-to-face conversation with someone you don't know, I think it should be a little bit easier to shoot a ping, a direct message, a chat, maybe an email. But I would say if it's your colleague, I would say shoot a chat to that person and be like, hey, I'm so and so. I'm new. I've been here for about 2 months, and I noticed we've never really spoken, and I don't think we've met. I would love to, get to know you a bit better. How the job has been for you, and potentially shadow you on certain calls that you might have, or grab coffee just to understand, what to expect as a new employee at the company, and how can I best position myself to be successful. Whatever it is that you want to talk about, you can choose any example from that and start that combo, right? And I think that is a big win in itself. Just getting out of your box a little bit and chatting people on your team, because eventually you need to speak to people on your team. If you don't have any sort of relationship with anyone on your team, then you're likely not going to have a great experience at the job. So I think this is the biggest challenge for shy people, but I think it's a necessary challenge.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And particularly what my introverted clients Warren, they are often, when I show you guys how to reach out to someone on LinkedIn, or just send an email, or just send a Slack message, just send a WhatsApp message. It's much easier to ask to meet via those channels than it may be to go up to them in person and talk if you're really shy. So that would be my recommendation as well, just to send them a quick message and then follow up in person. Hey, did you get my email? I wanted to have lunch with you. I'm new on the job. I'd love to just meet different people on the team and have a quick lunch. And very easy to do if you type the message first. It's often easier for introverted clients. Okay, so it looks like Warren, oh, you're
Yeah,
still,
no, I stopped my camera, just because. Yeah, I'm
yeah,
still there. I just stopped my camera because I'm having a little bit of a delay on my side. So
okay.
I'm wondering if that might help. But yeah,
Yeah,
I
man,
can
you
turn it
sound
back
good.
on.
No,
I
you
was
can
just,
keep it
yeah.
up if that's better. But yeah, you sound good. You sound good. All right, more
Okay,
questions. So
good.
Sanjay put up, agree with Warren. The negotiation conversation should be non-adversarial. All
Yes.
right. Tashay has a question. Tashay wants to make a career change. Would you recommend reaching out to someone in the field of interest for mentorship? And if so, how do I make that approach? Okay, so great
Yeah,
question.
man. All right. I'm breaking.
Yeah, you're frozen. Your
Uh,
video is frozen here. So maybe you should go back off camera. Does
okay.
that work better for you?
I'm off. I think so.
Good.
I hope you can hear me. Can you hear me?
Yeah,
Okay,
go
good.
ahead.
All right. Good thing that these issues are happening near the end of the call. So hope that's okay with the viewers. But yeah, it looks like we're having a little technical difficulty here. So
No
anyway,
problem.
yes. All right, Tashe. I want to make a career change. All right. So yes. These are things that we cover in the course as well, because this is such an important part of making that career change. We have a lot of soul seekers. That's what we call our soul career users, soul seekers. We have a lot of seekers that they are looking to make a career change, right? And a big recommendation that we give is, yes, if you want to change your career, it would be ideal to reach out to someone at that new job or in that new role that you are looking to have for yourself. Reach out to them and set up a little chat, 15 to 30 minute chat. Try to set up that chat with them so you can understand the role more, you can understand the company more, their experience at the company, their experience in the role, what they would recommend you do as someone that is looking to work at that company or in that role, right? And take notes. And if this is something that you truly want after having that conversation, because don't just have the conversation just to be like, all right, I checked the box, I had the conversation. Have the conversation to be present and to to understand, is this really what I want? And if it does meet your requirements, then I would say ask them if they're comfortable referring you for the role, or maybe connecting you with someone that is more of a decision maker for that role, if this person that you're speaking to isn't the decision maker themselves, right?
Yeah.
And how should we make that approach? So if this is a company that you are not currently working at, I would say what I have done, and this is based on experience that both Lisandra and myself have done. I would go on LinkedIn for as an option and just cold reach out to this person at this new role. I mean, at this new company, in ideally in the role that you want, and ask them, mention these things about your interest and how you would love to hear about their experience, because people like to talk about themselves, how you would love to hear about their experience. And it would be great if you could set up a 15-minute call with this person just to hear them out, right? I would say that's one approach that has worked for me on many occasions. And if it's someone in your network, even better. Reach out to that person, the person that that knows this person or that person, and try to schedule a call via text message, however you normally speak with this person or the person's contact that you are more closer, that you have a closer relationship with. And now finally, if this is a role at the same company that you're working at, I would say just like how you would ping your colleagues, like let's grab coffee, let's have a chat, let's talk about your experience. You know, what does that mean for me? Do the same, do similar for someone in a role that you would like to have, right? And just reach out to them on the company chat, on Slack, on Google Hangouts, what have you, and try to set up a call. Try to set up a chat. I know now it's a pandemic, it's COVID time, so it would probably be virtual still. But back in the day, in person even better. Just
Yeah.
try, just be bold and reach out. And if this is something you want, then take action. Be uncomfortable. Be comfortable with the uncomfortable.
Right. And we're going to wrap up here. And I will just add to what Warren said that it's just reaching out and networking is just one piece of the toolkit in getting a new career. There's a lot of other things that will have to take place for you to do a career change. But networking is actually the way that most people get their new jobs, especially if you're pivoting industries or pivoting to a completely different field. Networking is going to really be important, but it's one piece of the puzzle, and the puzzle has many other pieces, which is why Warren and I created Soul Career for Transitioners, our coaching program, an online program to help clients and to help transitioners to find that job that really lights them up from the inside out and makes you come alive. Because you can find a career that matches your personality. It's not just for entrepreneurs. You can also find a career you love. I loved my time at the Branson Center. Warren loves his time at Cloudflare. It's possible for you. So if you're interested in finding out more about our program, you can book a free call with either Warren or myself on soulcareer.com. You can ask us any question there that you want. If you book between 2 and 4 p.m. Eastern, you'll get me. If you book between 6 and 8 p.m. Eastern, you'll get Warren. And you can talk to us about your career there as well. We're so happy that you joined us for this live session. Thank you so much, Warren. You were amazing. As always, everyone loves when you're on. Thank you so much, Natalie, in the studio, typing the questions and moderating for us. Thank you guys for joining, and we'll be back in January with another live Q&A based on our podcast. You can listen to our podcast episode if you haven't before, and we will see you next year. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Take care.
Thanks for joining.
Happy
Bye.
Thanksgiving for the U.S. folks.
I forgot about that. Happy Thanksgiving, guys. Hi, Jean from London. Thanks for joining. We're actually at the end.
The U.S. folks.
Hi.